The British government has an uncanny ability to make any situation or any problem that it's involved in worse. You can pick up a history book from a few hundred years ago or pick up today's newspaper. You will find examples of how the government trying to solve problems actually makes problems worse. The government often gets the inverse of the results that it's trying to achieve. So if there's a problem that it's trying to solve, by the government messing around with it will actually make that problem larger. That's generally a consequence of government getting involved in various different situations. A good example that I like to point out is in the mid to late 19th century, the UK had quite an extensive canal network. This was for moving goods and products around the country. Now, this was the time that the train network was really starting to blossom. At the time, the government was still investing in digging new canals, which are slow, which are inefficient, when the market had already shifted towards the train, because it's much faster, it's more efficient, it just has so many more advantages over the canal network, which was great. It worked for the period that it needed to work, but this new technology had replaced it. But the government was still investing in this canal technology because it just was inefficient, doesn't really understand the problem, doesn't really understand the infrastructure that the market wanted. Another example is government goes out and says, okay, we want to solve third world poverty. We want to make the lives better for people in the third world. How do they do this? They send billions of pounds to various what are essentially failed states that are run by tyrants and warlords. By giving that money to these failed states, to these warlords, all you're essentially doing is keeping the power structure in these countries that is actually keeping countries poor. We know now through history how countries get wealthy. It's done through free trade, it's done through free speech. If you have a government that doesn't believe in free trade or free speech, but you are giving billions of pounds a year to that government to keep them propped up, how is that country ever going to become prosperous? They also do foreign aid by just giving countries vast amounts of food, so wheat, rice for these citizens to live off. What does that do to the farming industry of these nations? It completely destroys the farming industry, because if you're a farmer, how can you sell your wheat, your rice, if the American government are coming in and just giving rice away for free? And it completely destroys your business model, and it ensures more poverty, more famine in these countries in the long term. We see this with poverty in the UK, people getting trapped in poverty spiral. If they go to work, they actually lose out on benefits. Anything the government gets involved in turns into a big mess. Peace in the Middle East. What a joke that is. Look at Western intervention, look at British military intervention in the Middle East. It's made the situation many-fold worse than it would have otherwise had to be. Now, when we look at what's going on around the world now, with the pandemic, what is the government telling you to do? Lock yourself in your house. Don't exercise. Minimal time outdoors, which is going to minimize your sun exposure outdoors. Social distancing. What is social distancing? Social distancing is social isolation. It's isolating yourself from the rest of the world. That is going to increase mental health problems. It's going to make people depressed. All of these factors, limiting your sunlight, mental health problems, not exercising, not getting sunlight, that's all going to lower your immune system. So when the government comes in and it says, hey, look, here's this problem, we're going to meddle in it, we're going to get involved as much as we can, they're probably making the situation many, many times worse. And they're probably actually, almost certainly, the science shows that these measures they're putting in place, okay, if you're a very vulnerable person, if you're very elderly, if you have some sort of disease where you're very high risk of dying from a virus, yeah, take these measures. But by forcing these draconian measures on everybody, they're probably actually making the situation worse. As they make every pretty much situation the government touches, we know pretty much gets worse. Now, the scary thing is we are now relying on even more government to solve these problems. We already have the centrally planned healthcare system in the UK, which people often ask, why is Germany so much better, so much ahead of the rest of Europe? I mean, Germany has quite a privatized healthcare system. It's very free market. Read on some of the foundations of setting up the German healthcare system. They specifically said they didn't want an NHS system. They didn't want a centrally planned socialized system. They saw the benefits of free market medicine, the benefits of having a lot of your medicine privatized, and we're seeing that play out now. We're also now seeing the increasing prevalence of the centrally planned economy. Look at everything that the Treasury are doing, everything that the Chancellor are doing. Everything is becoming heavily more centralised. So expect fallout, expect problems from this. When the British government touch things, it generally kills it. They generally make the situation worse. I think the historians, when they look back on this time, are going to have a field day. This is just one big mess rolling out. I mean, I think anybody can see the problems that are happening now. And watch it. There's a fascinating interview with David Starkey. I'll leave the link in the description. It was a really good interview. Like, David Starkey, very prominent historian in the UK, very wise, has a broad knowledge of what's happened through England and Britain and UK history over the years, and he relates things that have happened in the past to what's happening now. So it's basically real-time history. It's a fascinating video. If you get a chance, have a look at that video. But what are your thoughts and opinions on this? Will the government fix this problem for us, or are we likely to see the inverse? That is to say, is the government making the situation probably manyfold worse than it needed to be? As always, don't forget, gold is money, everything else is credit. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you like it, like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.